With San Diego Comic-Con unable to go ahead as scheduled in 2020, it seemed that fans weren't going to be able to get the plethora of news that we're used to every summer. Yet, with the Fan Dome, DC were able to bring the news of their upcoming projects to the entire world in a way like never before. Some panels revealed new trailers, and others just brought new concept art to the table. But one of the most anticipated panels, that of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, brought a behind-the-scenes look, and more importantly, it confirmed exactly which characters are going to be joining the team in 2021. But here's the thing, there's a load of characters here that the more casual comic book fan might not even be aware of. So what we thought we'd do today is go through every single character, give you a little backstory about them, and explain why you should be very excited about this project. So with this in mind, I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and this is The Suicide Squad, every character explained. Number 20, General MATEO SUAREZ. At this time of recording, there is very little known about Joaquin Cosio's character in the Suicide Squad other than his name. It's unknown how big of a role Major General Suarez will play in the movie, or what impact that he might have on the narrative, or even which side he's going to be playing for. And there's not even really any strong leads from that particular name back into the history of DC Comics, so the character's role is actually anyone's guess. All we can assume is that, with his title, he's going to have a lot of power behind him, something which is likely to cause a problem for the squad at one point or another. Number 19, Presidente General Luna. Another of James Gunn's characters that gives away no clues with just a name is Presidente General Luna. Played by Juan Diego Botto, the general is likely to be a part of the same regime as General Suarez, but again, there's no hint to his allegiances, motivations, or impact that he's going to have on the movie, leaving fans guessing until the very last minute. Number 18, Emilia Harcourt. Though not necessarily a member of the squad itself, Emilia Harcourt could end up playing a key role within the team. As a Russian/American NSA agent, Harcourt has often played backup to Amanda Waller, both working with her and stepping in for her when she was suspended. However, her loyalties are certainly not straightforward, as she's betrayed the team before. Portrayed by James Gunn's girlfriend Jennifer Holland, it could be that the Suicide Squad gives Harcourt a much meatier role than she's ever enjoyed before. Alternatively, she may end up just being the Scott Eastwood of this Suicide Squad and ultimately have a very small role to play. Number 17, Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller is one of the few characters who won't be making their DCEU debut with the Suicide Squad, having appeared in David Ayer's outing in 2016. There were very few positives to come out of that movie, but without a doubt, one of the greatest aspects of that film was Viola Davis's performance. And we all know who Amanda Waller is by now, the no-nonsense, stone-faced mastermind behind the Task Force X program. This was how she was used by David Ayer, and it's hard to imagine that there's going to be any deviation by James Gunn. Davis will once again bring Waller to the table as the team's fearless leader and absolute authority figure. With her moral compass open to drifting between what is best for the squad and her own personal interests, the woman who knows Batman's true identity will definitely be a wildcard in 2021. Number 16, Rick Flag. While Amanda Waller is the ultimate boss of the Suicide Squad, Flag is the leader of the team in terms of day-to-day running. And we've seen that he's had no trouble murdering Slipknot when he stepped out of line, but then found himself to become a true member of the team by the end of the mission. While Flag was by no means a poor character in 2016, he was certainly not on the same level as the likes of Harley Quinn and Amanda Waller. And there's a lot of potential with this character, and hopefully James Gunn and Joel Kinnaman will bring it out. Number 15, SAVANT. Michael Rooker has had a history of working with James Gunn, so it was actually no surprise to see his name on the cast list. When the speculation started, many believed the Guardian of the Galaxy would be playing King Shark. However, it's now been confirmed that the actor will be portraying Savant. The villain is a relatively new addition to the DC lore, making his debut as a Batman antagonist in 2003. Born into a wealthy family, Brian Derlin looked to become a Gotham City vigilante, before being turned sour on this by the disapproval of the Dark Knight himself. Despite being an expert hacker and using his skills to blackmail, a chemical imbalance has led to the villain getting a tendency for forgetfulness. Savant's time with the Suicide Squad in the comics came with the New 52 reinvention. His stint, however, didn't last all that long, as he was actually tortured and ultimately ended up betraying Waller and the team. Though his fate was never truly confirmed, his betrayal of the team led to him being dragged away to be killed. And Rooker's character was killed the last time that he was directed by James Gunn, and if this movie stays loyal to the New 52 continuity, well, he might suffer the same fate again. Number 14, Javelin. German comedian Flula Borg's inclusion in the Suicide Squad cast list was a strange one to begin with. His character was all but confirmed by the bright blue and yellow costume in the leaked set photos, but now it is official that he will bring Javelin to life. Though the German villain's true name has never been revealed, he was once an Olympic athlete. During his comic book debut in 1984, the man who would be known as Javelin made his villainous turn, utilizing his javelins as spears while going toe-to-toe with the Green Lantern. During his time with the Suicide Squad, Javelin managed to die not just once, but twice. When James Gunn advised us not to get too attached, we all knew that there were going to be deaths in this movie, and it's very difficult to believe that Javelin won't be one of them. Number 13. Harley Quinn. Between her debut in 2016 and the new life that Joker breathed into the DC film world in 2019, Harley Quinn was easily the best character brought to life from the DC pages, or technically, the animated series. With Arthur Fleck technically residing outside of the DC extended universe, Harley is still the best character the franchise can boast. In 2016, a big part of Harley's story was her relationship with the Joker. She was doing what she was doing for her Mr. J, and it went a long way to defining her character. Her journey in Birds of Prey, however, freed her from any emotional connection going forward, hence her fantabulous emancipation. For James Gunn's Suicide Squad, Harley has evolved beyond just being Joker's girlfriend and doesn't need any mention of the clown prince of crime for her to maintain relevancy. The director called out Harley as the character that he was most excited to write for, and there's no doubt that he and Margot Robbie will take her to exciting new places in 2021. Number 12. Polka Dot Man. David Dastmalkin has plenty of previous experience in comic book movies. However, in the Suicide Squad, he will take on a role like nothing before. Polka Dot Man doesn't sound like the most intimidating villain in the world, but behind the spots of color are hidden an array of different weapons and powers. Though technically Gunn classes the polka dots as one big weapon, the villain has the ability to command a lot of firepower through them. The villain, whose real name is Abner Krill, made his debut all the way back in 1962 as a minor villain in the Batman and Robin Rogues Gallery. Polka Dot Man has never had any affiliation with the Suicide Squad in the comics, but this hasn't stopped James Gunn from utilizing the incredibly unique character for this movie. Number 11. Ratcatcher 2. James Gunn has made no secret of his love for the Suicide Squad property as a whole. With this in mind, we can expect a lot of loyalty to the source material. However, Gunn is also guaranteed to take some creative liberty with some of these characters. One such member of the team is Ratcatcher 2, originally a male character from the comics who's going to be portrayed by Daniela Melchior in 2021. This Batman villain's power revolves around rats in the same way that Ant-Man's revolves around ants. The character known as Otis Flanagan in the comics made his first appearance in 1988 and has the unique ability to communicate with and train rats. As another character with no previous ties to the Suicide Squad, there is obviously a reason Gunn has chosen to include Ratcatcher 2, and it will likely promise to be well worth it. Number 10. Bloodsport. The mystery surrounding Idris Elba's casting in the Suicide Squad led to fans debating over which character that he was going to be playing more than any other. Not Bronze Tiger, Deathstroke, or Sportsmaster, but Bloodsport. Since the character's DC Comics debut in 1987, there have been 3 men to take that mantle, and for now, it's unclear exactly which version we will be seeing. One of the biggest reveals from the entire panel came as part of Bloodsport's backstory. The reason the villain was arrested was because he shot at Superman with a kryptonite bullet. It's unlikely that this scene will actually be in the movie itself, since Gunn would have been crazy to spoil it a year before its release, but any kind of reference to the Man of Steel will definitely be a welcome one. Number 9. King Shark. When fans thought that they'd figured out that Steve Agee would be playing the King Shark in the Suicide Squad, James Gunn decided to throw a spanner in the works by commenting on social media that the Guardians of the Galaxy actor wasn't playing who people thought he was. With the confirmation that he would in fact be donning the motion capture suit for the movie, fans can continue their excitement for a big screen version of King Shark. The character has had 2 stints in the Suicide Squad in the past, with the second resulting in him devouring one of his teammates. Any of the squad in 2021 could fall victim to King Shark if he's rubbed the wrong way, and what a show of strength and reckless abandon it would be. Number 8. Mongol. As a martial artist and actress, Mei Ling Ng is no stranger to the world of DC comic book movies, having portrayed Orana in Wonder Woman in 2017. For the Suicide Squad, Ng will be swapping playing an Amazon for playing an alien. Mongol, along with her twin brother Mongul, came to Earth from the planet Almarak and gave Superman an incredibly tough and bloody fight. After becoming queen of her land, Mongol was ultimately killed by her brother in 2006, 11 years after her comic debut. With no previous affiliation to the Suicide Squad, it will be incredibly interesting to see what James Gunn has in store for the alien. Number 7. Thinker. One of the few character details that we had before the DC fandom was that Peter Capaldi would be bold in this movie. Naturally, this set off rumours surrounding Hugo Strange and even Lex Luthor. But very few seem to take a guess that the former Doctor Who would ever be playing the Thinker. First appearing way back in 1943, Clifford DeVoe decided to use his intelligence as a way of becoming the brains behind many small-time villains. This evolved into his creation of the Thinking Cap, the same device that we can see Capaldi wearing in the promotional material. Though this allowed the Thinker to project his mental force, it also was the cause of the villain's cancer. The second iteration of the character was Cliff Carmichael, whose time in a mental institution saw him become the subject of experiments surrounding the thought-to-be-dead DeVoe's original thinking cap. Both men have a history with the Suicide Squad, and both saw their own deaths thanks to one of their teammates. It'll be interesting to see which version of the character James Gunn introduces, and which member of the squad might ultimately end up killing him. Number 6. Salsoria. What's interesting about Salsoria is that there's just no record of this character in the history of the DC lore. The current prevailing theory is that much like Ratcatcher 2, Salsoria will be a gender-swapped version of a character from the comics, in this case, Juan Soria. The villain started out as a fanatic of the Justice League, and when he injected his hand with nanites, allowing him to unlock any locked object, he tried out for the team under the new name Captain Key. After being rejected, Soria robbed a bank with his newfound power before being stopped by the Justice League and forced into solitude. Juan has had a brief stint with the Suicide Squad, playing an integral part in successfully bringing down a mysterious alien queen under the direction of Amanda Waller, but it's impossible to know how this is going to translate into the movie. Number 5. Blackguard. As with Flula Borg, Pete Davidson's name didn't quite fit with some of the others in this ridiculously impressive cast list for the Suicide Squad. This is unlike anything the SNL regular has ever done. The character, typically a nemesis of Booster Gold, is something of a mercenary, armed with a suit of armor, powerful weapons, and of course super strength, and has had a few run-ins with Amanda Waller and the Suicide Squad previously. Brought in as muscle for the team on a mission, the reformed villain was ultimately betrayed and beheaded by a character named the General. So, as we said at the very beginning of these lists, make sure to pay attention whenever Pete Davidson shares any screen time with the General, because their chances are that that's probably going to be his last. Number 4. TDK. Nathan Fillion's character is another that was greatly speculated about, with fans everywhere certain that the Firefly actor would be portraying the wonderfully named Arm Fall Off Boy. The leaked set photo showed the character's logo, clearly suggesting that the detachable limbs are definitely going to be a part of this villain's arsenal. When asked about this, Fillion shot down the rumor, saying that he had never heard of Arm Fall Off Boy, and that he certainly hadn't seen that name in the script. This turned out actually to be true, as Gunn seems to have simply renamed the character to TDK. The character with the ridiculous premise has been sparingly used, to say the least, throughout the pages of DC Comics, with powers exactly as you'd imagine. He can remove his arms and use them as blunt instruments. The majority of his time in the comics has been spent trying to join the Legion of Superheroes, but has been, of course, rejected at every turn. This backstory may well translate to Fillion's character in the movie. Number 3. Weasel. Of all the characters that were confirmed by James Gunn at the DC fandom, fans are seemingly the most excited about Weasel coming to life. First appearing in 1985, John Monroe was bullied by his fellow students at university, inadvertently giving the villain the moniker Weasel when he became a murderer years later. Although originally wearing a weasel suit rather than being some kind of horrific hybrid, Monroe managed to kill 3 people before being caught. In his time with the Suicide Squad, Weasel tried to kill Thinker, but was ultimately murdered by Rick Flag Jr., who was told to destroy Weasel by Thinker's thinking cap. It wasn't until the New 52 reimagination of the DC universe that Weasel was portrayed as more animal than man. From the very few images that we've seen of Sean Gunn's version of this character, the Suicide Squad will seemingly take John Monroe even further into this evolution, with barely any humanity left in him, if any at all. Number 2. Captain Boomerang. After appearing in David Ayer's Suicide Squad and having an almost cameo appearance on a wanted poster in Birds of Prey, Jai Courtney will once again be bringing Captain Boomerang's love of pink unicorns to the big screen. There's no better example of Boomerang's disruptive attitude and dysfunctional personality in the comics than the heartless villains that make up the Suicide Squad turning on him, considering him dangerous and lazy, and not even putting in enough effort to benefit the team. And when they're thinking negatively of you, you know you're a bad egg. As one of the few that had previous experience in the DCEU squad, Boomerang will likely take up more of a leadership role within the team, since he wouldn't be coming back if he didn't want to. Remember, he said he'd happily spend the rest of his life in prison. He knows the risks and will seemingly still cooperate anyway. Of course, this doesn't mean that he's going to be making life easy for the rest of his team by any stretch of the imagination. And number 1, Peacemaker. Of all of the characters that will make up the titular team, there are several reasons to believe that John Cena's Peacemaker will have one of the biggest roles to play. Not only is he the only character other than Harley Quinn to have his own comic book series, he was actually the only one that Gunn went into any detail about during the behind-the-scenes snippet shown at the DC Fandom. Described as a sort of douchey Captain America, Peacemaker is a vigilante so hell-bent on having peace at any cost, he doesn't care how many people he has to kill to achieve this goal. Originally published by Carlton Comics in 1966, Christopher Smith was brought over to DC and given his own solo run in the 1980s. As a vigilante happy to murder in order to achieve peace, it's likely that Peacemaker will butt heads with more than one of his new teammates in 2021. You know what? I can't wait. And there we go, my friends. That was the Suicide Squad Every Character Explained. Hope you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. And if you want to chat to me further about anything else to do with TV, films, wrestling, video games, whatever else, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ0. As always, I've been Jules. You've been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.